I'm sure he can do it all.
Mr. Little.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Penley, have you ever testified under oath before today?
Yes, I've testified under oath.
Did you testify under oath before the House Board of Managers?
No.
Did any of the House Board of Managers, Andrew Murr, Jeff Leach, Charlie Guerin, any of them put you under oath to provide testimony in connection with the impeachment proceedings in the House?
No, I did not testify in the House.
In fact,
not in a proceeding in the House. I did speak with their investigators.
Did you review the video of your meeting with the investigators before testifying here today?
No.
And during that proceeding, isn't it true that Ms. Therese Buse, who was hired as one of the investigators, told you that there was a legislative privilege that covered your testimony in that proceeding?
I don't know that she told me that. It was my understanding there was a legislative privilege.
Just to be clear, when you testified there on video, did you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, that was my intent.
Yes, and it was your intent.
Yeah, I mean, I may have gotten a date wrong. I may have gotten an event occurred one day instead of another day, but it was my intention to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes, sir.
Of course. So if we have your statement from that interview that was conducted by the House Board of Managers and their investigators, we can rely on it as being true, correct?
I believe so. That was my intention.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, I'm going to introduce AG Exhibit 68. May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
It's not on our list, so you'll have to submit it at the right time.
And we move for admission of AG Exhibit 68.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Admit AG 68 to evidence.
Eric, Exhibit 68, if you would. Thank you so much. All right, to be clear, Mr. Penley, this is the referral that came to your office from the Travis County District Attorney's Office, and it was dated June 10 of 2020, correct?
That's correct.
It's received in your office sometime around June 17 of 2020, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And when you got this, neither David Maxwell nor you were excited about the assignment at all, and neither one of you really wanted to move forward with it, correct?
That's true.
And what Nate Paul was accusing these people here, or at least complaining about, if true, it was a 20-year felony. You would agree with that, correct?
An alteration of a federal or a document, yes, it would be a 20-year felony.
And there's a state analog to the federal statute concerning alteration of government documents, true?
Yes, I believe that's 3710.
So there was a state offense that had been alleged in this referral, true?
He was claiming there were state law offenses, yes.
Yes, that's what I said. There is a state offense alleged in this referral, true?
Yes, if you believe what Nate Paul was saying.
Yes, and it wasn't a crime to follow up on this. It wasn't obstruction of justice. It wasn't interference with an FBI investigation. True?
To a certain point, I agree.
Very good. In fact, when you were working at the U.S. Attorney's Office, there was an FBI employee in the U.S. Attorney's Office, or I'm sorry, in the Northern District of Texas. His name was Jeffrey Fudge. Do you remember that person?
I don't.
He was an FBI employee who was accused, indicted, and convicted of plugging other people's information into government databases and letting them know if there were investigations about them. You familiar with that?
I'm not.
It happened your first year at the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Pardon me, Your Honor. You were talking about something he doesn't know anything about. Now he's testifying about it, and I object to that.
Overruled. He can ask the question, but be careful of your line of questioning.
I certainly will. Have you ever heard of an FBI employee named Kevin Kleinsmith?
I believe so.
Yes. At the same time that you were doing this investigation, an FBI employee was being investigated and subsequently indicted for providing false information in pursuit of a FISA warrant. Correct?
I've heard that.
Operation Crossfire Hurricane, you've heard of that before, correct?
I have.
Yes. And so the allegations that are being made here, it's not a crime to follow up on them, and a state offense is alleged. True?
I felt it was appropriate to do an initial review.
Object now responsive.
Sustain.
True?
Could you ask the question again, please?
Yes. The state offenses that are alleged here, It wasn't a crime to follow up on them, was it?
No, it wasn't a crime to follow up.
No. But your testimony earlier was you hoped to slow walk it.
Yes.
Did you tell Michael Wynn that?
No.
Did you tell Nate Paul that?
No.
Did you tell your boss Ken Paxton that?
No.
And in fact, between June 17 and July 6, 2020, you only talked to David Maxwell about it, right?
Between what dates?
June 17 and July 6 of 2020, you only talked to David Maxwell about it.
That's not correct.
That was your testimony on direct. Would you like to correct it?
I would, if I may.
Please.
I'm sure I talked to Jeff Mateer as well. In fact, we talked to Jeff Mateer when he handed us the referral on June the 18th, probably.
We may be talking past one another. You did no investigation between June 17 and July 6. True?
We didn't do any, no.
Didn't do any work. True?
That's true.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as AG Exhibit 88. We move for admission of AG 88.
Any objection, Mr. Hardin?
No, Your Honor.
It's admitted to evidence, AG 88, 68. I'm sorry, say that number. 88, I see it. Thank you.
Mr. Arroyo, if you could publish AG 88 on Bates page HBOM 181004. So move ahead 3 pages from there. And blow up all the text and writing at the top, please. These are your notes, Mr. Penley, from your meeting with Ken Paxton on July 6 of 2020. True?
Yes.
And in that meeting, at the top you write, tampering with docs is a state issue, per Mindy of Travis County. Who's Mindy?
Mindy Monford, the first assistant at the Travis County District Attorney's Office.
Did she tell you that?
No.
You didn't know enough state law to know that there was a state offense alleged at this point in time, did you?
That's incorrect.
So you knew there was a state offense alleged. You didn't need Ken Paxton or Mindy Monford to tell you that. True?
I believe I discussed that with David Maxwell.
You learned it from David Maxwell, right?
I believe so.
Did you look up the law yourself?
I did.
Good. Next line says he alleged they changed the search warrant. The next line after that, if you would, read that to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please.
Ken just wants the truth, period.
Ken just wants the truth. And to be clear for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, who is Ken?
That's Attorney General Ken Paxton.
He told you he just wanted the truth. True?
He said he did.
Yeah, and you believed him at the time. True? True?
At the time I believed him, yes.
Yes, at the time you believed him.
That's right, but
Okay.
not later.
And so when you made these notes, you were making notes of what Ken Paxton was saying, and he was telling you he just wanted the truth.
That's right, I wrote down what he said.
The truth about what?
About what happened with Nate Paul.
And did you tell him you would get right on it?
We did. We started trying to schedule a meeting.
I don't think so. Let's move on to
Object
our
to the
next exhibit.
sidebar.
Withdrawn.
Sustained.
This is another portion of Exhibit AG 88. Mr. Arroyo, if you could move to the next page, .5. Mr. Penley, these are your notes of a subsequent meeting with your boss, Ken Paxton, true?
Yes.
And if you could, Mr. Arroyo, blow up the bottom half of that page, please. The date of this meeting is on or around July 16. Yes?
Well, that's my best belief. I didn't date this page, and I don't know specifically when it was, but from looking at other information, that's my belief. This happened on July 16th.
And how long had you been working at the Attorney General's office at this point?
About 9 months.
About 9 months, less than a year, certainly. True?
Yes, I only worked there a year.
And you wrote the word Ken and you bolded it, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Arroyo, can you bold that? Can you highlight that for me? And to the right of it, you wrote an asterisk and it says, he's embarrassed.
That's what he said.
He was embarrassed with you and David Maxwell. True?
He was embarrassed at the lack of progress on the Nate Paul matter.
Because you hadn't done anything. True?
That's true.
Below it says, we've had this for 6 weeks, exclamation point. And Ken Paxton was upset with you that in 6 weeks, you and David Maxwell had done nothing. True?
Which part of the question do you want me to answer first? You asked me if we'd had it for 6 weeks. That is true. And it's also true we had done no investigating in that 6 weeks.
Ken Paxton was upset that you had done nothing for 6 weeks on a referral from Travis County that he was aware of. True?
That's true.
Down, if you would, there's some discussion about Texas Monthly. Do you see the all caps statement that you wrote in your notes?
I do.
And Mr. Arroyo, if you would highlight that portion and the portion below it and the line below it, you're on it. And below it, it says, seek the truth, 2 exclamation points. And that's what your boss, Ken Paxton, told you to do. True?
That's what he said. I wrote down what he said.
And what he said was to tell you to seek the truth. Yes?
Yes, that's what he said, and that's what we did.
And below that, it says, let results be what they are. True?
That's what he said, and that's what I wrote down. True.
And at that point in time, in that day, he did not tell you to interfere with an FBI investigation, did he?
Not that day, no.
He did not tell you to obstruct justice, did he?
Not that day, no.
No, he didn't. Mr. Arroyo, if you would, please bring up Exhibit 1, AG 1009. This has already been entered into evidence, Mr. President, before the break. Exhibit AG 1009 is on the screen here, and these are your notes from July 23, 2020, true?
Correct.
And these are notes from your review of Nate Paul's earlier meeting with David Maxwell, of which you are not a participant, true?
That's true.
Yes. And in the middle, Mr. Arroyo, it says the agents didn't. If you can highlight that portion. It says the agents didn't leave search warrants behind. Violation of the law. True?
No, it's not a violation of the law.
Is the Federal Code of Criminal Procedure the law or not?
It's a procedural code. It's not a statute.
Okay. They broke the law as expressed in the Code of Criminal Procedure. True?
They broke the procedural rules of the Federal Code of Criminal Procedure, if that was true.
Let's turn the page. Next page, Mr. Arroyo. In the middle of the page, there's a section that says metadata on PDF. You could zoom in on that. It says, actually don't zoom in on that whole thing, just get the line below that as well, was created on 9/6. Can you read that okay, Mr. Penley?
I can, thank you.
Right, very good. It says metadata on PDF was created on 9/6.
Yes.
You would agree with me if someone was manipulating federal search warrants after they had already been served or after they had already been created, that is a problem, yes?
Could you repeat the question? You said manipulated. I don't understand what you mean.
If someone were changing search warrants after a judge signed them, that would be bad. True?
I'd agree if they were changing the text.
Yes, not just redactions, but changing the actual text, right?
If they were changing the text that the magistrate judge had approved, that would be a crime.
And the next page, if you would, Mr. Arroyo. About 3/4 of the way down, there's a paragraph that says claim above an asterisk. If you could zoom in on that for us. No, above that, please. The next paragraph above. Yeah, the allegation here is that the search warrant for the file storage company, Contigo, was fabricated after the fact. Yes?
That was Mr. Paul's allegation, yes.
All right. Next page, please. And on the last page, you wrote the notes, Ronnie Saban, TFO. That stands for Task Force Officer. Yes?
Yes.
State Securities Board. Yes?
Yes.
How did he get the name Ronnie Saban?
Well, I know that he met Ronnie Saban because he claimed that Ronnie Saban had been executing the search at his residence, and they spoke to each other.
So what you're saying is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Nate Paul knew Ronnie Saban was involved with the search warrant because he met him during the execution of the search warrant, correct?
Yes, he had personal knowledge of Ronnie Saban because he met him during the search.
Not because Nate Paul got some secret document from someone else, true?
No, that's absolutely false, and you misstated my testimony.
Object is non-responsive to everything after no.
Sustained.
Now, we're going to look at AG Exhibit 110. Mr. Arroyo, if you would, AG Exhibit, I'm sorry, not 110, 1010. There we go. All right. These are your notes from a meeting with Michael Wynn on July 28th of 2020, true?
Those are my notes from a phone call with Michael Wynn, that's correct.
Yes, a phone call. And at the top it says, wants to come to Austin to explain papers. Yes?
Yes.
And below that says the agents didn't leave copies at the premises, but you already knew that, true?
I knew that from reviewing the first meeting, the July 21st meeting video, yes.
Next line down, it says inconsistent signatures and stamps. Yes?
That's what I wrote down because that's what Mr. Wynn told me, yes.
Yeah, and these notes are from a phone call in advance of an August 5, 2020 meeting with Mr. Wynn and his lawyer, yes?
Correct. We set that meeting date during this call.
Yes. And by this point in time, Mr. Penley, had you done any investigating at all?
Yes.
And what did that include?
Well, it included watching the video of the July 21st meeting where Mr. Maxwell met with Mr. Wynn and Mr. Paul, listened to their complaints, listened to their theories. So I'd reviewed all that, and he wanted to come have a second meeting, and I agreed to it.
All you did was listen to them at this point in time, true?
Yes, that was an initial report
Object
by...
not responsive to everything after
Excuse me,
yes.
can the witness finish his answer, please?
Sustain the objection. Rule your objection.
I'm going to show you what...
Please let him have time to finish.
I will do my best. Now we're going to look at Exhibit 1011, AG Exhibit 1011. And these are your notes from a meeting with Nate Paul and Michael Wynn, true?
Yes, that's the August 5th meeting.
And you can see there, by your first asterisk, hold on, it says thumb drive of docs produced.
That's true.
They gave you a thumb drive.
They
yes?
did, yes.
And I want you to scroll down. Do you see the line that says J. Lane?
Yes, I see that.
This J. Lane said he didn't have the original search warrant. Yes?
Well, I don't know if he did or he didn't. That's what Michael Wynn told me.
Yes. And so what Michael Wynn told you in this meeting is that the magistrate, the federal magistrate judge, informed them that he did not have the original search warrant. True?
That's what Michael Wynn said, true.
And if that were true, that would be really surprising if a federal magistrate, for whatever reason, did not have the original search warrant. Yes?
Yes, that would surprise me.
Did you ever look for the original search warrant?
How would I do that, sir?
Did you call anyone?
I raised that with the Attorney General and the First Assistant that was an option.
Object non-responsive. That was not my question.
Sustained.
Did you call anyone at the magistrate's office, a clerk, a deputy clerk, the magistrate himself? Yes or no?
No, I never called the federal magistrate or his staff.
Did you call Alan Bowie, perhaps?
No, I did not.
Did you call any of his deputies at the U.S. Attorney's office?
I did not.
How hard would that have been to do?
It would have been problematic in my view.
It would have damaged your reputation and the office's reputation potentially, true?
Not my reputation. I wasn't concerned about that. I was concerned about the reputation of the office and our work with the federal authorities in the state of Texas.
For you to call the feds, you would have worried that that would have harmed the reputation of the office.
Not to make a phone call, but to
Then
make
why didn't you do it?
Because a phone call about this seemed to be high risk to the functioning of the Office of the Attorney General when we needed to work with federal authorities or appear in federal court, which our attorneys did all the time.
That would have been high risk to make a phone call? You're going to tell these senators it was high risk for the Office of the Attorney General for you to pick up the phone and make a phone call, yes?
Not to make a phone call, no. But to make a phone call about this, yes.
Well, why didn't you do it?
The reason I didn't do it is because Nate Paul was claiming there was a grand conspiracy between a federal judge, 2 federal prosecutors, at least 2 state agencies represented as task force officers, and a number of FBI agents. Nate Paul filed a civil suit against 100 law enforcement agents in federal court in Austin over this. And I thought to call the U.S. Attorney's Office and say, we have any belief that career AUSAs would be altering search warrants is crazy, especially when they have an ongoing investigation that's privileged.
In any event, you didn't make the phone call.
I did not, for the reasons stated.
Yeah. Isn't it true that in these videos, first in the meeting with David Maxwell and Nate Paul and his lawyer, and then with you also, Nate Paul's own lawyer said, we're not trying to interfere with the FBI investigation. Didn't he say that?
He may have. I don't have a specific recollection.
Isn't it true that Nate Paul's lawyer, Michael Wynn, also told you, we don't necessarily think that these are evil people. It may have been a comedy of errors, or they may have just made some bad choices and not been able to get out of it.
I remember him saying,
pardon me, is he soliciting hearsay? Surely not.
It's testimony from the video that you put in evidence about 2 hours ago, Rusty.
It doesn't matter. I just simply asked, are you asking what somebody else said out of court? Isn't that what you've been arguing about for me for the last week?
You remember the videos you put in this morning and the transcripts? It's from there. I hope that clarifies it.
Overruled.
All right. Now, let's go back to Exhibit 8. So, just to be clear, hold on.
which exhibit?
We're going to go to AG 1012, please. If you could, Mr. Arroyo. This is a meeting, and you are in this meeting with the Criminal Investigation Division's forensics team, true?
Correct, and David Maxwell.
And these are your notes, yes?
Yes.
And you're talking about metadata, true?
Yes.
And they told you that the results were inconclusive, true?
That was their words, yes.
Yes. They didn't tell you that there was no proof of a crime, or that no crime had been committed, or that a crime had been committed. They didn't tell you any of those things, did they?
They said the metadata was inconclusive.
And they didn't tell you that a crime had or had not been committed, true?
That's right, and I wasn't asking
Object
you that.
non-responsive to everything after that's right.
Sustain.
Mr. Penley, focus with me. Inconclusive means we don't know, doesn't it?
It means it doesn't prove anything. That's what it means.
It doesn't disprove anything either, does it?
That's right.
It seems like if something is inconclusive, it might require further investigation, right?
It's possible.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit AG 88. Eric, if you can go back to that. I'm going to bring the page to you so you can see it.
Thank you.
If you would, Eric, go to the page ending in 7. 007. There, stop right there. Go back. All right, blow up all the text at the top. Mr. Penley, you got out of the meeting and you had Tina McLeod, who works in IT, she sent you an email. Metadata is, quote, data that provides information about other data.
Yes, she sent me this email, and because I'd sent her one.
And at the bottom she said, hope this helps. Yes?
That's what she wrote.
You asked her to send this to you, yes?
I did.
Because you didn't know what the heck metadata was before you walked into that meeting, right?
That's not correct. I had a general impression of what metadata was. Nate Paul was making specific allegations that he could understand the metadata, and he claimed it proved the search warrants had been altered. And I was trying to go to our IT director, who is at the deputy level, and see if I could get a more definitive definition of metadata that would help me analyze his claim.
Of course. And so what had happened was, on this same day, you had met with Nate Paul and his lawyers, and no?
No.
Okay.
This was August the 6th. This
Yes.
was the day after the meeting.
Yes. So you met with your team, your forensic team.
On August 6th, yes.
And then you got out of the meeting and said, hey, Tina, can you send me a definition of metadata, please?
I don't remember if I sent the email before we met with the forensics team or after. Metadata was the central core of Nate Paul's complaints about the search warrant. That was the evidence that he and Mr. Wynn pointed to that would prove that state violations had occurred in the alleged alteration of a court document.
And in order for you to assess those claims, you needed to know what metadata was, right?
Of course, yes.
May I approach the witness? Mr. Arroyo, back to Exhibit AG 88. The page ending in '03, please. What is this list, Mr. Penley?
Well, it's a document that apparently
Excuse me,
was...
we're on the wrong page up on the screen.
Oh, wrong page. Mr. Arroyo, 003, please. Other way. Okay, what's this list?
Your Honor, may I inquire if he asks the witness if these are his notes or his typing?
No, it's in evidence. It was offered, admitted, over your objection. No objection, actually.
I don't believe this was prepared by him, so I don't know if he is going to ask him about it. I'd like the record to reflect he's out talking to him about something he did not prepare.
He produced it in response to...
It doesn't matter whether he produced it. It matters as to whether this witness had anything to do with it.
I'll try to lay a proper predicate.
It looks to me like we received it from the Attorney General's office.
Mr. Harden, you can take the witness on voir dire and ask him.
Yes. Mr. Penley, of this particular exhibit, did you have anything to do with preparing it?
I don't recognize this document. I don't recall preparing this. I don't believe it's mine.
Okay. That's all I have, Judge.
Do you remember ever seeing it?
I've seen it in the documents for this trial. I've seen it in the discovery.
You produced it in response to your subpoena, yes?
I don't know that.
He didn't produce.
Hold on. I'm asking the question.
I don't know that I did.
Okay, we can go back and look.
And if I did, I don't know that I prepared it. Perhaps I received it some other way.
The suggestions on this list are suggestions of things that the office might do, questions it might answer in connection with the investigation, right?
I agree with that.
Yeah. And it says, can we talk to the AUSA Alan Bowie, right?
Correct.
And you've already testified you didn't do that, yes?
Right, I did not do that.
And none of the other questions, how was the document created? How was the document encrypted? What did he encrypt it with? What application did he use? You never got the answers to any of those questions, did you?
No, I did not.
Doesn't that seem like important information you might want to know?
No, not based on what I learned on August the 6th.
Okay. So I want to fast forward in your mind now to August 12th. We're going in chronological order if you couldn't tell. August 12th, you believe, and your testimony on direct was, you believe Ken Paxton was no longer supporting you. True?
That's true.
Yeah, and you came to that conclusion after the meeting with Nate Paul and his lawyers, at which the Attorney General was present, yes?
based on what the Attorney General said, that was opposite of what he had told me 3 or 4 days earlier.
And now, if you would, let's take a look, Mr. Arroyo, at AG 1013. You and the deputies on August 13th, the day after you say you no longer felt supported by Ken Paxton, you got in a circle with your deputies, yes?
I didn't get in a circle. I briefed Jeff Mateer on what had happened the previous day.
When you produced this document in response to a subpoena, you blacked out the top, you whited out the top of it, right?
Yes, because
I just need an answer to my question.
Yes, I did. I redacted it.
Yes, and we don't know what's under there because you didn't show us, correct?
That's true.
Now we go to the rest of this item. These are your handwritten notes from a meeting, true?
Yes.
And below that, Mr. Arroyo, if you can blow up the text to the right below that. It says, call Dan Cogdill.
Yes.
That's what you wrote, right?
Absolutely.
We're talking about that guy?
Yes, the guy in the good-looking sport coat over here.
It says, ask him if Maxwell and I say go no further with this. Did you call Dan Cogdill?
No, we did not, but we considered it.
Object non-responsive to anything after no.
Sustain.
Below that, Mr. Roy, if you could highlight that, it says possible bribery.
Yes, I wrote that.
On August 13th of 2020, you had absolutely no evidence, physical, documentary, eyewitness, or circumstantial, that Ken Paxton was being bribed by anyone, did you?
I disagree with your statement. I had circumstantial evidence.
Oh, you had circumstantial evidence?
Yes.
Well, at some point on August 13th, did you go to your boss, Ken Paxton, and say, Attorney General, I'm concerned. I have circumstantial evidence that you've taken a bribe. Did you do that?
Not on the 13th of August. I did it later.
You didn't do that because you knew you would get fired, right?
I said possible bribery. I didn't have evidence to confront him with, not at that time.
Oh, but you just told the ladies and gentlemen of the jury you had circumstantial evidence.
Yeah.
So did you confront him with the circumstantial evidence?
No, the circumstantial
Object
evidence.
now responsive to everything after no.
Please be allowed to respond. I'm just
Sustain. Your objections.
Thank you. Mr. Penley, below that it says, if you can zoom back out, Mr. Arroyo, he's using OAG/playing KP. Did you tell your boss you thought that Nate Paul was playing him?
Not on August the 13th.
Why not on that day? You had his phone number, right?
I'm sorry?
You had Ken Paxton's phone number, right?
Yes, I did.
Why didn't you confront Ken Paxton with your circumstantial evidence of bribery and the idea that Nate Paul was playing him on August 13?
Because I was trying to find a way to convince him to listen to reason and get away from this investigation, which I thought was highly dangerous to him and harmful to the office and injurious to the respect for the law in the state of Texas.
But also because if you had done that, you should expect to get fired, don't you think?
I could have been, and I was concerned about getting fired ever since Ken Paxton did a 180 and turned against me in the August 12th meeting, all the way to the end.
Okay. So just to be clear for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, your concerns about bribery did not arrive until you thought Ken Paxton might fire you, yes?
No, that's not correct. You're misstating what I thought.
I have your notes here.
Yes.
This is the first document I've ever seen where you've written the words possible bribery. Will you agree?
I don't have all the documents I've written. I've written a lot, so I can't agree to that unless you want to show me all the documents. I began to be very concerned about what was going on in his mind when, on about August the 8th, more or less, I told him I recommended closing the investigation. He looked me in the eye and said, okay, fine. All I ask you to do is meet with him and tell him And then 2 days later, he told me he wanted to attend the meeting. And then in the meeting, when I announced to Mr. Paul and Mr. Wynn, I recommended we close the investigation because the metadata theory didn't prove a crime, Ken Paxton began making negative comments
I'm going to
to
object
me.
to the narrative.
Sustained.
Appreciate your answer, Mr. Penley, but my question was a little bit different. On August 12th, by August 12th, you thought, this guy might fire me, yeah?
I did.
On August 13th, you wrote down, maybe he's being bribed, yeah?
Yes, because I thought that.
And you didn't confront him that day because to do so probably would have resulted in you being fired, yes?
Could be.
The safer strategy is to wait a month and go to the FBI with whatever circumstantial evidence you have and adopt whistleblower status for the same information, right?
No, I don't agree with your characterization.
Okay. In any event, in this memo, you say that the metadata is inconclusive, right?
I'm sorry, where are you pointing me to?
Zoom back out, Eric, if you would, please. Yep, metadata is inconclusive. No proof of crime. No disproof of crime either, right?
I wrote down metadata is inconclusive, no proof of crime, and that was my belief at that time, and it still is.
In any event, I think you can tell the jury, and that we'll agree, you didn't do any investigating after that, right?
No, that's not true. I tried to investigate. I tried to get the rest of the documents that Nate Paul and Michael Wynn had told me they had on August 5th. They told me they'd gotten a bunch of documents from Judge Lane, and I never felt like they'd given me all the documents.
You had already told Nate Paul and his lawyer the day before that you were going to close the investigation before you had those documents. True?
That's true. And the Attorney General didn't accept
Jack
it.
not responsive to anything after true.
Sustained.
All right. I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit AG 1014, please. We're going to move ahead in time from August 13th of 2020 to September 4th of 2020. Can you see this document in front of you on the screen? Or in your hand? You've got a copy of it physically.
Yes, I think I can see it better on the screen if you'll blow it up. Thank you.
This is an email from General Counsel. This is Leslie French at the OAG, and she's sending it to FLD Contracts. It says, FLD, please see the attached partially executed contract and disclosures from Mr. Kamak. I have reviewed the disclosure statement of Brandon Kamak and am satisfied with the choice of outside counsel for this matter. Do you see that?
I do see that.
Okay. And on September 4th, you got the DocuSign that day, yes?
I've said in writing that I got it that day, but now that I've reviewed a lot more evidence, I think I made a mistake, and I believe I've got it for the first time on September the 16th is when it reached my email inbox.
Well, that's not what you testified to under oath before the House Board of Managers, is it?
That's why I said I made a mistake.
Yeah.
You're correct.
And when you and I think you'll agree, I'm not going to have to pull your transcript out. You testified to the House Board of Managers and their investigators that you got it on September 4th, and then you went on vacation and said, I'll take care of that when I get back. That's what you told them, yes? And now you're telling a different story, yes?
Well, you've asked two questions at least. I'll answer it this way if I may. Yes, I told the House managers I thought the date I first received the executive approval memorandum was on September the 3rd or 4th, whatever date is in the transcript. I don't argue with that. I now believe I first received it on September the 16th, so I'm correcting my testimony.
Now, you're correcting your testimony that you gave to the House Impeachment Board's investigators, yes?
Yes, that's true.
We should believe what you're saying today and not then, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Our next exhibit in time, if you would, we're going to go back to Exhibit AG 88. I'm going to show you the next page.
Thank you.
Your Honor, because it was, if I may, because this was a group offer, they're all, of course, Exhibit 88. If counsel could, on each one of these pages where he does it for us, give it some type of identifying so we can know and be able to pull back up later?
Well, they're already in. I'll identify it by Bates number if that's okay. So, Mr. Arroyo, if you'll go to the Bates ending in 8.
I realize they're in evidence. What I would like is a Bates number each time so I know which one to look for.
Would you accommodate him, please?
We'll do our best. Yes. Mr. Arroyo, go to page ending in 8. Give me all the text, Eric, if you would. This email is sent from Mark Penley to Brittany Hornsey, copying Drew Wicker. Hi, Brittany. I received a voicemail from the general today. He is requesting that all documents I have on the Nathan Paul matter be copied and given to Elise. Did I read that correctly?
You did.
The Attorney General just sent you to the showers, didn't he?
I'm sorry?
He just came to the mound and took the ball out of your hand. Said, give me the file. I'll take it from here. Yes?
He didn't say that.
That's what you should have inferred from that, right? The Attorney General came and got the file from you. Yes?
You're asking me to speculate. I don't know what was in his mind. I know I got a voicemail from him while I was on vacation asking me to get the file to one of the executive assistants on the executive floor, which I did.
You knew that was not a good sign, right?
No, I'd been given a warning that he was working up an outside counsel contract, and that was consistent with the idea that he was going around me and David Maxwell and trying to hire outside counsel.
He's taking the ball out of your hands, yes?
That's your phrase. I'll accept it if you want me to.
Okay, I do. You gonna accept it? He took the ball out of your hands.
I'll accept that he was trying to take the case out of my hands. There was no ball.
Very good. Let's move to Exhibit AG 1015, if you would. And these are your notes from a side huddle with Jeff Mateer, Blake Brickman, and Ryan Bangert. Yes?
Yes, that's correct.
And at the bottom, we've got more redactions. Yes?
Yes, they were irrelevant topics that came up in a meeting that had nothing to do with this case.
Well, I guess we'll have to take your word for it, won't we?
Well, yeah.
Below that, it says NP, file returned, Joe Brown, Cliff Strickland, outside counsel contract. So you knew about it.
Yes, the purpose of the meeting with Jeff was so he could update me on things that had gone on during the week I was gone. And he told me that the Attorney General had considered hiring Joe Brown, a former United States attorney and former district attorney in Sherman. He'd been the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Texas. He also, I believe, had conducted a phone interview with Cliff Strickland, an attorney in Denver.
All right, let's move ahead in time a little bit. May I approach the witness, Your Honor? Mr. Penley, I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit AG 124. Eric, would you bring that up, please? This is the second referral from the Travis County District Attorney's Office to Brandon Kamak on September 23rd of 2020, yes?
Yes.
And when you made your report to the FBI, you didn't know about this, true?
That's true.
And when you, I believe the word you used on direct was apoplectic.
Yes.
When you were apoplectic about the grand jury subpoenas being served by Brandon Kamak, it was because you believed they were being used for civil discovery in a criminal matter. True?
That's true.
But in fact, they were related to this second referral and a bid rigging investigation that had been referred to the Travis County District Attorney's Office over to Brandon Kamak.
You lost me on the second question. Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, let me try again. The grand jury subpoenas Mr. Kamak was serving were relating to this referral in a bid rigging investigation that had been made from Travis County District Attorney's Office to Brandon Kamak. True?
That's not completely true. It's partially true.
It's a lot true, isn't it?
It's partially true. I'll explain if you want me to.
You can do that on redirect, I bet. We'll try. But here's what I want you to understand and I want you to appreciate and agree with me on. You didn't know about this, and the subpoenas that Mr. Kamak was serving were related to this referral. Yes?
A, I didn't know about this. I agree. B, all of the 39 grand jury subpoenas he obtained from Travis County did not relate to referral number 2. Part of them referred to referral number 1.
Thank you. We're going to move to Exhibit AG 92.
I do not believe 124 was admitted previously.
We move for admission of AG 124.
Any objection? That's the document Mr. Hardin, he had been working from before that one you were just handed.
He has seen 124, and this is 92.
I have no objection.
I'll show that Exhibit 124 is admitted into evidence. And now are you offering another?
AG 92, Mr. President.
Any objection on this one, Mr. Hardin?
No, Your Honor.
I'll show that Exhibit 92 be admitted into evidence. Continue.
Mr. Penley, after 10 days here in Exhibit AG 92, you admit, or you finally state, I'm not signing the outside counsel contract. Yeah?
You said after 10 days. What, you lost me at 10
well,
days.
Your testimony today was that you got the outside counsel contract DocuSign on September 14th. You told them you got it on September 4th. Whether you've had it for 10 days or 20 days, you are now finally telling someone, I'm not signing it. Yes?
I received it on September the 16th, as I previously stated. So 8 days later, after the Attorney General called me and asked me to sign the outside counsel contract, I told him I could not and I would not, and I gave him all the reasons why. He told me to talk to Jeff Mateer and to forward this contract to Jeff Mateer, which I did.
Let's move to Exhibit AG 1017, Eric. These are the notes that have already been entered in evidence, I guess, on both sides. But these are your notes from September 26, right?
Yes, these are my after-meeting notes on September 26 from McKinney.
Okay. This is discussion about hiring outside counsel, at least in part, yes?
Yes, that was discussed.
Okay, Eric, zoom in on the last half of the page, please. Higher. There you go, stop. Do you see the line about 4 lines down? It says, I said. Do you see that?
Yes.
It says, I said I don't need him, and we shouldn't be spending money on him when we can't give raises to our employees.
Yes, I see that.
You said that, didn't you?
I did.
None of that is your business or decision or authority at the Office of the Attorney General, is it?
I don't totally agree with you. I don't have the ultimate authority, but I have a duty to tell him about things going on in my area of responsibility. We couldn't give raises to our people. I felt like he was wasting money on outside counsel on an improper investigation, and I was trying to express that to him.
Do you understand that there are 900 outside counsel contracts every 2 years at the Office of the Attorney General?
I didn't know that, but I'll take your word for it.
And your explanation here, for one reason Ken Paxton shouldn't hire Brandon Kamak is, I don't need him. We shouldn't be spending money on him when we can't give raises to our employees. That was what you said, yeah?
That's what I said.
And Ken Paxton got upset and he said, so you're going to exercise veto powers over the budget for the agency?
He said that, yes.
That was his response to you, yes?
Yes, it was.
At the bottom, it says there's a chance of media exposure. Second to line from the bottom.
Yes.
You expressed you were worried about that, right?
I was worried for his sake, yes, and I warned him.
Go to the third page, if you would, Eric. Again, we see on the third page the word inconclusive. The theory advanced by NP was inconclusive, yes?
I'm sorry, could you tell me, can you direct me to the part of the page you're looking at?
Yes, can you highlight that for the jurors?
Yes, it's about 3/4 of the way down. You see the word inconclusive? It says theory advanced by at the beginning of the line. Lower, Eric, right there. This theory, in about a third of the way down.
Yes,
theory advanced by NP was inconclusive, yes? You see that?
Give me, if I may have just a moment to read the paper copy.
Yeah, take your time.
Yes, I wrote that.
And toward the bottom of the page, and just leave it there, Eric, it says, I'm willing to hit the reset button and start fresh if they will produce docs, right?
Yes, I told him that.
You're 3 months into this referral, yes, and you're now telling your boss, I'm willing to hit the reset button. General Paxton?
That's
Yes?
what I told him on September the 26th, yes, after repeated requests for all the documents.
Turn the page if you would. Eric, give me the bottom half. You said, I told him this is a dangerous case. A dim DA or U.S. attorney could charge him with a play-for-pay scheme if they learned about the investigation, since Nate Paul is a campaign donor. Yes?
Yes, I wrote that.
Okay. You don't have any evidence that Nate Paul ever paid any type of bribe to Ken Paxton, do you?
I disagree with your statement.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what evidence you have that Nate Paul paid Ken Paxton any type of bribe. Go.
I've read the evidence that was filed in response to the motion for summary judgment that your team filed. I've read...
Hold on a second. This is legal analysis based on what you've read? Is that right?
You asked me if I had any evidence. I'm trying to answer the question, sir.
No,
Yes.
You're analyzing what evidence other people are offering in this case. On September 26, did you have any physical evidence, documentary evidence, eyewitness evidence, or circumstantial evidence that Ken Paxton had committed or been bribed by Nate Paul?
I had circumstantial evidence.
Anything else?
I had his behavior,
Anything else?
the campaign donation,
Anything else?
his absolute refusal to listen to common sense and reasoned legal positions. He wouldn't listen to anybody on the executive staff.
Anything else?
There's 4,000 pages filed in response to the summary judgment. There's stuff in there.
Did you have any of them?
I didn't have it on September 26. I know about it today.
The bottom portion of that bottom paragraph says, I gave him the scenario that NP, if indicted, could make up a story and throw him under the bus to the feds. That's what you told him, right?
I did.
You told him the risk was Nate Paul would manufacture false information that could harm Ken Paxton, yes?
That's the way I phrased it, yes.
That's what you said and that's what you wrote, yes?
Yes.
We get to September 30th or 29th and 30th, your head explodes, yes?
That's true. Figuratively speaking, I hope.
That's what you said that's what you said to the House Board of Managers,
I
right?
did, and I was extremely upset when I found out about the grand jury subpoenas, yes.
I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit AG 50. May I approach, Mr. President?
Thank you.
Mr. President, we move for admission of AG 50.
Any objection, Mr. Harden?
No objection.
Eric, if you would put that up
Admit
for me.
into evidence, please, AG 50.
You signed this, yes?
I did, yes.
It says, we have a good faith belief that the Attorney General is violating federal and or state law. Yes?
Correct.
You had a good faith belief on October 1st, 2020. Yes?
Yes.
Did you bring any documentary evidence or physical evidence to the FBI?
No documents, no physical evidence.
And just to be clear, your testimony on direct was one of the reasons you thought Nate Paul had no credibility was he didn't give you any documentary evidence. True?
Based on his theory, there was nothing to back up his theory. Correct.
Yeah. And so it's fair to say if you had had documentary evidence of any crimes by Ken Paxton, you would have brought them to the FBI when you visited with them prior to this letter. True?
I disagree with you.
Oh, so you would have sat on it?
No.
If you had any documentary evidence of a crime by Ken Paxton, you would have brought it to the FBI. Yes?
No.
No, you wouldn't have?
No. This was an initial report by eyewitnesses. And it happened in a hurry.
I agree with that. How much of a hurry did it happen in?
Well, in one sense, it had gone on for 3 months, but what really took this to a crisis level was learning that Brandon Kamak, or Kamak, I don't know the exact pronunciation, was serving grand jury subpoenas that were designed to help Nate Paul in his civil litigation against his business adversaries.
You've testified about that. May I approach, Your Honor?
Thank you.
We move for admission of Exhibit AG 97, please.
When you have time to respond, Mr. Hardin.
No objection, Your Honor.
Admit AG Exhibit 97 into evidence.
From your office email, you forwarded grand jury subpoenas that were supposed to be secret to your counsel, Johnny Sutton, correct?
That's partially correct, yes.
And to be clear, you've never paid Johnny Sutton a dime, have you?
Not yet.
You have some type of pro bono deal with him?
No.
Who's paying for him?
We haven't agreed on a fee arrangement yet. We've agreed to discuss that in the future.
Let's let that sink in for a second. This man, who's a former assistant U.S. attorney, is with the Ashcroft law firm, I believe. It's in multiple states. He's represented you for 3 years and you haven't agreed on a fee arrangement yet? I want to make sure I understand.
That's right.
Haven't paid him anything?
Haven't paid him anything.
He's never sent you a bill?
No, sir.
Sounds like a great guy.
He is. And he's a former United States attorney, not an AUSA.
At some point in time, you get placed on investigative leave, true?
On October the 2nd, correct, by the Attorney General himself.
And by that point in time, there was still no file related to your investigation at the OAG, yes?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the full question. Could you repeat?
There was no file at the time that you were placed on investigative leave in the OAG system related to the Nate Paul investigation, true?
I had a file with my personal notes on the case, but we had not officially opened an investigation file.
If you would, Mr. Arroyo, bring up Exhibit AG 1020, please. October 10 of 2020, these are your notes from a conversation with David Maxwell, correct?
Yes.
Blow up the bottom portion and highlight it, Mr. Arroyo. Highlight that bottom asterisk. Your plan, while you were still at the Office of the Attorney General on you're on investigative leave on October 10, right?
That's true.
Your plan is to cook up bar complaints on Brandon Kamak, Michael Wynn, and Ken Paxton, isn't it?
That was not my plan.
It was David Maxwell's plan?
I write down what people say
Object
in my phone
non-responsive.
memos. I wrote that down.
Shane,
But he can't, pardon me, Your Honor, he
let's
can't.
back up. Let's slow down, let him finish his answer, then you can object. Go ahead.
Time's at a premium, Mr. Penley. It was David Maxwell's plan as of October 10 of 2020 to cook up bar complaints against Brandon Kamak and Mike Wynn and Ken Paxton. Yes?
No, I don't agree with that. He said that. I wrote it down. That's what it means.
And you wrote it down because, well, why don't you tell these people what he actually said?
The best recollection, well, I have no independent recollection of these notes, so I wrote down the word cook up. We never did anything with it. We never even called the bar.
But the two of you talked about it, yes?
That comment was made on that date, and I wrote it down on October the 10th. Yes, I wrote that down.
And toward the top, it says, look at the defense fund, may need a grand jury subpoena, right?
Right.
That was part of your plan, wasn't it?
No, that was part of our conversation, and we were trying to find more links between Nate Paul and Ken Paxton.
If you would, Mr. Arroyo, Exhibit AG 1021. These are your notes. Let's work from the top. When did you write this?
Hang on just a second. I guess I don't have a paper copy. It was sometime after I was placed on investigative leave. I don't know the exact date.
At the top, it says Google KP's Defense Fund. Eric, if you could zoom in on that. See if we can access that document. Who's we, by the way?
Some of the whistleblowers. I can't name anybody other than myself.
You guys are trying to dig for dirt on Ken Paxton, right?
We're trying to find evidence to defend ourselves because we were being unjustly treated.
Next paragraph, Mr. Arroyo. At the top, you write, Missy told him he could sign the contract and hire outside counsel. Yes?
I wrote that down, yes.
That's Missy Carey, the Chief of Staff of the Office of Attorney General, yes?
That's correct.
And your notes, your recollections from this meeting, were that you were all discussing it, and the Chief of Staff said, Ken, you can sign that contract, yes?
Well, I don't know this was from a meeting. I believe it was from a phone call.
Let's go to the bottom two lines on that page, if you would, Mr. Arroyo. The bottom you wrote, KP must be indicted by spring break. You wrote that, right?
Yes.
That was what you wanted, wasn't it?
At that point, yes, because I believed he'd broken the law.
Of what year?
I'm sorry?
Of what year?
The law of what year?
Ask the witness.
Mr. Hardin, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot. Mr. Penley, I'll just take a few minutes with you. Just a few things I want to mention real quickly. But what is your testimony as to whether or not at the time all of this was happening, you had seen the referral that is called the second referral? And if we could put up the front page of AG Exhibit 124, please, Stacy. It's okay. Thanks a lot. Now, Stacy, if we could put the date, isolate the date there. So September the 23rd, correct?
Correct.
That you're really only, everything blew up, we can all agree, can we not, on September the 30th, with y'all going to the FBI and so?
I'd say September 29th, the day before, with the first grand jury subpoena being reported.
Okay, but you went to the FBI on what date?
On the 30th.
All right. Now, this is just 1 week before that, is my point, is it not?
Yes, sir.
And were you ever, during any of the time this was going on, were you informed that after filing the complaint back in June on the referral, that now after things are, you've been looking at one referral?
Yes.
Is your testimony throughout this case, y'all were only concerned with one referral?
Right. I only knew of one referral all the way to the point when I got put on investigative leave.
All right. Have you since reviewed, after this was all over, after you were terminated? Well, back up. Had you seen this referral number 2 from this gentleman before you were terminated?
I think I saw it between the time I was put on leave and terminated, which was a month. I think I saw it in between that time.
And at the time, now did that lessen your view of, or change your view of Mr. Paul, or did it increase the view you already had reached?
It increased my anger at the Attorney General.
All right, hold on a second.
For doing all this.
Hold on a second. I want to move you now to Stacey Bates Stamp. I think it's one, yes, one, Bates Stamp 2443, please, Stacey. Now, you've heard on cross, you've been asked questions about when y'all met with the investigative committee that you weren't under oath, right?
Yes, I recall that.
I'm going to look at this. Does this page show? All right. Do you see whether or not Mr. Paul once again had a choice of whether or not to swear to the allegations he was making?
Yes, I know that on both referral number 1 and number 2, those forms from Travis County have a line for a notary signature and a swearing that everything is true.
Now, what is your opinion as to whether when he goes to the district attorney's office to file a complaint and has a chance to make his allegations, did he swear to those allegations?
He did not swear to either complaint in referral 1 or referral 2.
And when he didn't swear to the complaint, did you, once you found out about it, while you were, you say, on leave before you're officially terminated, did you look at the allegations this guy was making this time?
I looked at the allegations. With that combined with everything else that had occurred, made me look in a highly skeptical way at his claims.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you look at this referral number 2 and see that now he wants a federal bankruptcy judge investigated?
Right. That makes 2 federal judges he wants the state of Texas to investigate, even though we told him he needed to go to the United States Department of Justice Inspector General's office to take these claims.
And to take him seriously.
He wanted us to take him seriously, I agree.
Go to Bates Stamp if you can, Stacey, 124. Or excuse, that's the exhibit, excuse me. Bates Stamp 2445. I want you to look at how many people now does he want an investigation of. For instance, look at on page 2445. Let's scroll down. Will you just read out the names of the people he now wants y'all to investigate in addition to the people he wanted you to investigate in the original referral?
Yes, sir. Brian Hardiman,
Slow down. Do you know who Brian Hardiman is, one way or the other?
I do not.
Next one.
Will Hardiman.
Do you know who he is?
I've read that's Brian Hardiman's son.
Do you know who Christopher Dobson is?
No.
Are you aware that's opposing counsel in the case that he's in litigation with?
No, but I'm not surprised.
Stephen Benish, do you know who that is?
I do not.
Do you know who Jason Cohen is?
I do not.
Do you know who Mark Riley is?
I don't.
Do you know that Mark Riley is engaged in a civil lawsuit with him?
One moment, Counselor.
Yes,
Can
sir.
we take out that information, please, on addresses?
Pardon me?
Just very briefly, Mr.
Yes.
President, assuming facts not in evidence,
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
I'm saying, assuming facts not in evidence, Mr. Hardin is saying that these people are certain things and the witness has no knowledge of it.
Sustained.
Do you know who Jason Bain is?
I don't know him.
Do you know whether Tony M. Davis is a federal bankruptcy judge?
Yes, I understand that he is a United States bankruptcy judge in the Western District of Texas in Austin.
And do you know who Ray Chester is?
He is the trustee for the Mitty Foundation, which is involved in a lawsuit with Nate Paul.
Is Ray Chester a trustee or is he opposing counsel representing the Mitty Foundation?
My understanding is he's an attorney, but he's also the trustee represented by counsel.
Do you know who Mr. Milligan is? Gregory Milligan.
I believe he's an attorney in Austin, somehow involved in that litigation.
At the end of the day, when you read this particular referral, is there any way, on God's green earth, you would ever want to support a criminal investigation based on this guy?
Absolutely not.
I have no further questions.
Recross, Mr. Little.
No recross, Mr. President. May I have a moment to collect all my goods from up there?
You may.
Are these your notes down here?
Mr. Hard, Mr. Little, may this witness be excused?
I would hope so, Your Honor.
Subject to potential recall, of course, but yes.
Yes. You may step down. Thank you. I'm going to take all those, leave those here for us.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Would you raise your right hand? Take the following oath. I do solemnly swear that I or affirm that the evidence I give upon this hearing by the Senate of Texas of impeachment charges against Warren Kenneth Paxton Jr. shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I swear.
Please be seated. Counsel, will you give your name for the record?
My name is Therese Boos.
You may begin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Would you please state your full
Hold
name?
on. Both of you are going to have to get much closer to the mic and speak up a little bit more. Yeah. No, it's the acoustics are not
Yes,
great
sir.
in here.
Is that better?
I can hear you. It's a big room. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Would you please state your full name?
My name is Catherine Minter Carey, although I sometimes go by Missy.
Is that a name your parents gave you?
It's a nickname. My sister and I were Missy and Prissy growing up, and, I got the better end of that deal.
So which name do you go by?
I think everyone here would know me by Missy.
All right. Okay, if I call you Missy.
It is.
All right, Missy. Where did you grow up?
I grew up here in Austin.
And what did your mom do?
She was a school teacher and a stay-home mom.
How about your dad?
My father's an attorney.
And where did he work?
Actually, his first job was he was an assistant attorney general at the attorney general's office from 1965 when I was born to 1971. And then he had private practice in a law firm here in Austin.
Was he a role model for you?
He is a role model for me, yes.
Is he why you became a lawyer?
He is.
How about the Attorney General's office?
It just, when I was a kid, he would take me up there. I was probably kindergarten or first grade, and it was like the scene from Mad Men, if you know the TV show. It was a cool place, and it was what I always wanted to be.
So where did you go for undergrad?
I started at Hollins College, which is a girls' school in Virginia, and then I transferred to Texas A&M, where I graduated.
What's your degree in?
In political science.
Where'd you go after that?
I went to law school at St. Mary's in San Antonio.
And were you licensed to practice law?
I am. I'm licensed in Texas in 1990.
After you got your license, where did you go to work?
My first job was here at the General Land Office. I was a staff. First, I started out because I didn't have my bar results, and I learned quick that the Appropriations Act says you have to have a license to be a lawyer. So I started actually as a legal secretary or law clerk, and then when I got my results, I became a staff attorney there for 5 years.
And when you got promoted to staff attorney, what kind of things were you handling?
I did employment law. I wrote legislation. I worked on the Open Beaches Act, the Oil Spill Response Act. I did a little bit of collections for the Permanent School Fund. Did different things like that.
At the end of your 5 years, where did you move to?
I moved for the first time to the Office of the Attorney General.
Okay. And which department were you assigned to work in?
In the Administrative Law Division.
And what kind of things did you handle?
So part of the time I was a litigator in administrative law, represented the state in court. The other duties were general counsel to various state agencies that didn't have their own general counsels. I did open records, open meetings. I drafted rules, tried cases about the Administrative Procedures Act, did some employment law.
Sounds like all kinds of things.
Kind of a division that does a little bit of everything government-oriented.
Okay. Did you leave the Attorney General's office?
I did. I left the Attorney General's office for a while in 1997, and I was conscripted, so to speak, to work at the Texas Lottery Commission for Harriet Myers, Anthony Sadbury, and Judge Hill, John Hill, to work on a matter with the executive director at the time that was kind of well known in the press.
Okay.
So,
was there a scandal?
there was.
And did it all have to get cleaned up?
It did.
And did you assist with that?
I did.
All right. After that work got done, where did you go?
After that work got done, I was asked by incoming Attorney General, now Senator John Cornyn, to come and be the Attorney General's office's public information coordinator. So I came back to the Attorney General's office in 1999, and I did the coordinator position for a year, and then I was given the division chief of the Open Records Division next, and I think I held that position about 6 or 7 years.
And at the end of that, where did you go?
I was promoted to the general counsel position for the Office of the Attorney General. I think in 2006, I was the agency's general counsel.
And after that?
After that, I was promoted by Governor Abbott when he was still Attorney General to be the deputy for administration for the Office of the Attorney General, and I remained in that position when General Paxton came in, and did the same basic job for both of them.
Tell us how many attorney generals you've worked for.
As Attorney General, I've worked for 4, and then John Hill at the Lottery Commission.
Okay.
So 5.
Tell us the names.
So Dan Morales, John Cornyn, Greg Abbott, Ken Paxton, Attorney General Hill when he was on the Lottery Commission. And I also worked at the land office for Gary Morrow, who was a statewide elected official.
In 2014, when Ken Paxton became the Attorney General, did you receive a promotion?
I did.
And what were you promoted to?
I was the first female chief of staff of the Office of the Attorney General, and the first person to work their way all the way up from a line lawyer to a position that high in the agency.
And who did you report to in that position?
I reported to Jeff Mateer, who was the first assistant. Well, actually, probably it was Chip Roy first. I can't remember. It was the first assistant, whichever one was there first.
And eventually to Jeff Mateer as
Indeed.
first assistant?
I think Jeff was their chief of staff, yes.
Okay. May I have Exhibit 553, please? It's not in evidence. It was used, I think, with the very first witness. And I'll offer it into evidence. It's an organizational chart.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Enter, I don't have a copy, but what's the number?
It's 553.
553 into evidence. In the future, if you all can give us a copy. Thank you.
Can you see the chart, 553?
I can.
Okay. And what year is this chart reflecting?
This chart, even though it's dated September 2020, I think reflects the organization as of September of 2019.
Okay. And are the names, have the names changed a little bit during the time that you were there? I'm interested actually in the divisions and the deputies, the slots. Can you, looking at the far left of the line of executives, can you tell us, as chief of staff, who you worked with during the period of time that you were working with Ken Paxton as your assistant, as your attorney general? Start at the left, if you would.
So there's a different org chart that's now come up on the screen. This organizational chart is the chart from 2019, before September 1st, 2019. And I'm happy to answer the question. I'm just not sure which chart you want me to answer the question for.
Are we on 553? 553. 553. I'm interested in the divisions.
I understand.
Can you
Oh, which chart are you interested in the divisions on? There's two organizational charts, and it's different, actually.
How about the one that we're looking at right now? Does that help?
That helps.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. Let's start at the far left of the chart.
Okay.
And can you tell us which divisions you supervised and spent the most time with?
The first assistant supervised all the deputies. However, Mr. Starr and I sort of split the deputies by areas of our expertise to assist Jeff in his management of the deputies. So for me, I was most involved with the Deputy Attorney General for Child Support and the 40 Director, the Chief Information Officer, which is the IT department, the Deputy for Administration, the Deputy Attorney General for Criminal Justice, the Director of Law Enforcement, and if you could shift it over a little bit. And that would be all there. And then if you look above, directly reporting to me was the agency's public information coordinator, who I oversaw. And then I also helped the first assistant with the ombudsperson and the internal auditor.
When you retired, how many years had you spent with the Attorney General's office?
Just the Attorney General's office, somewhere over 20.
Okay.
25, probably. 20, well, probably 20.
And during the time that you were there, would you say you developed certain areas of expertise?
I did over my career develop certain areas of expertise, yes.
And those particular areas, do you actually teach? You teach other people about them?
I have taught other people in the past, yes, about my areas of expertise.
What kind of places have you taught at?
I mean, I've taught at CLEs, I've taught at the National Association of Attorneys General. I was one of their instructor faculty. I've taught about how to run an Attorney General's office, how to fund an Attorney General's office, what do Attorney Generals do. I've consulted with other Attorney Generals across the country about their Attorney General's offices. I've taught ethics. I've taught contracting. I've taught administrative law. I've taught open records many times, open meetings, administrative law in general.
And how about writing? Have you published any publications?
I have. I've published law review articles and other writings, both about employment law, procurement law, administrative law. I'm board certified in administrative law.
I'd like to go forward to 2018, if you would.
All right.
Okay. What building were you officing in at that time?
My office in 2018 was in the Price Daniel building, which is attached to the Supreme Court on this side of the street.
What floor?
The 8th floor.
And who officed around you?
My office was directly next to the first assistants with his assistant in between us. And on the other side was the conference room and then the Attorney General.
So would it be fair to say that the people around you were the executive team?
Correct.
Was it all of the executive team or part of them?
It was part of the executive team. For example, the Child Support Division has its own building out on Old Wharf, and the Child Support 40 Director always had an office in each place. The Director of Law Enforcement and the head prosecutor also had 2 offices, as did the Director of IT. But it was intended to be the executive staff on the 8th floor.
So in 2018, can you tell us a little bit about the quality of the executives that were around you? Who were they and what did you think of them?
Well,
Your Honor, objection relevance. It doesn't matter what she thinks of them. It has nothing to do with this.
Sustain.
Can you tell us, please, the people that worked with you, did they mirror the policy choices of Attorney General Paxton?
Your Honor, again, relevance. Object.
Would overrule this time.
they did. The executive team was created in order to further General Paxton or any Attorney General's agenda, and desires of where they want the office to go, and they did so.
And during the period from 2018 up to 2020, were you aware of how they were perceived by people outside of the office, other professionals?
Objection, Your Honor. That calls for speculation. How can she know what people outside the office thought about these people?
I can qualify.
Sustained.
Are you familiar with how the executive group within your office was perceived by people outside of the office? For example, other professionals in Texas and even outside of Texas?
Objection, Your Honor. Personal knowledge, she doesn't have it, and to the extent she has any, it would be hearsay.
Sustained.
Do you know what the general opinion was of the office from 2018 to 2020?
Objection again, Your Honor. The general opinion of who? I mean, there's almost 30 million Texans. There could be 30 million opinions.
Sustained.
Did the executive team meet regularly with Jim Mateer?
With Jeff Mateer, yes.
Sorry. And at those meetings, would you all catch up on what was going on with each other's departments?
We had a Thursday executive meeting that included, at times, General Paxton and Mr. Mateer and the deputies, and we caught each other up on what was going on, yes.
Can you tell us what General Paxton's involvement with the day-to-day operation of the office was?
His involvement was similar to most other attorneys general. Most attorneys general set the high-level policy and high-level direction of where they want the executive staff to go, and then depend on the executive staff to complete those tasks and to follow that direction.
So, Missy, you had worked in the office for a very long time at that point. As you looked around you at the people that you were working with, how would you describe them?
Objection, Your Honor. Vague and irrelevant.
Sustained.
What kind of group were they?
Again, I have no idea what that means. What kind of group were they? It could be anything. Vague.
Could you be more specific? Thank you.
Was there a description that you used for the people that you were working with? Did you call them something?
I'm sorry to interrupt again, Your Honor. It's the same objection.
I have to sustain.
Of all of the people that you worked with at the Attorney General's office, and again, I know they're like children, right? We don't like to say which ones are our favorite, but as a group, can you quantify them for us from 2018 to 2020?
Your Honor, I hate to slow this down, but that question is vague and, as best I can tell, irrelevant.
Sustained.
Describe your office for us in 2018.
Is she, again, vague? Is she talking about the building? I'm not sure what she's talking about, vague.
Yes, Counselor, can you be very specific?
Yes. Can you tell me a little bit about the people who worked around you from 2018 to 2020, your executive team?
It's a compound question. Objection. She's asking about multiple people. We don't know who she's talking about, but to the extent it's more than one, it's compound.
I can take them one by one. If counsel wants me to do that, we can do that.
You're on the clock. Yes, I want you to do that. Ask a specific question.
Okay. Sustain. Be specific.
Did you have an opinion about the people that you were working with, your executive team, during that time period?
Yes.
Tell us what that opinion was.
Objection, Your Honor. Vague. Which person is she referring to?
I'm referring to the entire executive team that we've talked about.
Yeah, we can.
I'm sorry to do this, but she can ask, what's your opinion of Mateer? To the extent that's even relevant, probably not, but this is very vague, and to the extent it's not vague, it's compound.
I'm going to overrule. You can ask the question. You can answer what your opinion was of the overall team.
Can answer the question.
My opinion of the overall executive team was that they were incredibly professional. They were committed to General Paxton's agenda, and it was a credible set of legal minds.
Was part of your responsibilities working with and supervising the security detail group?
Yes and no. I did not supervise the security detail because they work for the Department of Public Safety, but I did liaison with the security detail as one of their points of contact, myself and Jeff Mateer.
Okay. How about the scheduler?
The scheduler did not report to me, reported to Jeff, but I did help at times with questions and things with the schedule.
I want to talk with you specifically about spring of 2018, okay?
Yes.
All right. Was there an incident that caused you some concern?
Yes.
And I want to talk about that. Can you tell us where you were when it happened?
I believe you're referring to an incident at the Galaxy Cafe.
I am.
Spring of 2018, I was at the Galaxy Cafe on West Lynn eating lunch by myself. They have very small tables that sit 2 by 2, very close to the person who's sitting next to you. I was alone eating lunch, and there was a man and a woman sitting to the table directly next to me, probably within 3 feet away. And they were having a conversation, and the woman of the group was sharing what I perceived to be very personal.
I'm sorry. She's about to repeat hearsay. I object to that.
Sustained.
As you sat and listened to the conversation, did you overhear some information that you felt was inappropriate?
This question calls for speculation and also hearsay. I object.
Sustained.
As you sat and listened to the conversation, how did you feel?
Objection, relevance. Doesn't matter how she felt. I mean, that has nothing to do with this case.
Sustained.
As you sat and listened to the conversation, did you decide to do something?
Objection, vague. I'm not sure what that means, Your Honor.
Will overrule.
What did you do?
After listening to the conversation, I took a photograph of this person and took it back directly to Attorney General Paxton.
And why did you do that?
Excuse me, can you move closer to the mic?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Carey.
And why did you do that?
Because I felt the conversation was...
Objection, hearsay.
I'm not asking for hearsay. I'm asking what her concern was.
That's not what the question was, Your Honor.
I asked her...
Would you repeat the question?
Yes. You took a picture of the woman. Why did you do that?
I wanted to talk to General Paxton about it, what I saw.
Is security of the Attorney General something that you as an employee were very concerned with?
Always.
Was the conversation that you overheard causing you concern about safety for the Attorney General?
No.
What was it causing you concern about?
Objection, she hasn't said that she was caused concern. I mean, it assumes that she was concerned, and she hasn't told us that yet.
Sustained, you can ask that question.
Were you concerned?
Yes.
What were you concerned about?
The level of personal detail being shared in a public space.
And was it directed to the Attorney General, Ken Paxton?
No.
Who was it directed to?
It was directed to a man who I did not recognize at her lunch table.
Okay. The woman that was speaking, did you recognize her?
No.
Did you do anything further before you left the restaurant?
No.
Did you monitor the woman as she was leaving the restaurant?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
What did you do?
She's already said she did nothing else, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Can you rephrase that a little bit?
I can. Before you left the restaurant, did you try to get any additional information about the woman?
I looked at the car she was driving when we were leaving at the same time.
And what kind of information did you get about the car?
I noticed the kind of car it was, the color, and that it was a car purchased in San Antonio.
Okay. You had the picture in your phone, you had the car information. What did you do with that?
I waited for a time when I could talk to General Paxton privately, and I talked to him privately about what I'd witnessed.
Okay. Tell us what you told him.
Objection, hearsay.
It's not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, Mr. President. It's to show the effect on this witness and the actions that she took as a result of it.
Overruled.
What did you tell General Paxton about what you heard?
Basically what I just told the court, and I asked him if he knew who she was.
What information did you relay to him about what you had heard?
I relayed to him that I was sitting at lunch alone in the Galaxy Cafe, and I overheard loudly a conversation between two people, and that the details that were provided by this person were surprising to me and of concern, and I wanted him to know about it.
Specifically, what details were you concerned about?
This is hearsay, Your Honor. You've already ruled on that.
Sustained.
And I'm not offering it for the truth of the matter asserted. I'm trying to show why she's doing what she's doing.
If it's not offered for the truth, then it's irrelevant.
Sustained.
When you talked with General Paxton, how did he respond?
He told me that I had taken a picture of his realtor who was trying to sell his condo on Enfield, and that he would talk to her.
Did you believe that?
Absolutely.
Was he concerned that someone was talking about his personal business in a restaurant out loud?
No.
Did you believe him when he said it was his realtor?
Yes.
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
Did he provide a name for that person?
No, he did not.
All right. Let's come forward now to May of 2018. Did you have an occasion to go to an official function in San Antonio?
Yes.
And did you see someone there that you recognized?
Yes.
And who was it that you recognized?
Same lady I'd seen in Galaxy Cafe.
Okay. A realtor at an official function? What kind of function were you at?
Was at a National Association of Attorney General's reception, a happy hour, cocktail hour.
Okay. Did you get the name of that person?
He was wearing a name tag.
And what was the name?
Laura Olson.
Okay. During the course of the spring and summer of 2018, did you come to learn what the relationship was between Laura Olson and the Attorney General?
I did.
Objection, Your Honor. I'd like to lay a predicate for that. Otherwise, it's based on hearsay.
Sustained.
How did you come to learn about the relationship?
Attorney General told me about it. I was also told by the security detail and the travel aides.
And did you confirm that it was the named Laura Olson, same person?
I did.
How did that make you feel about him telling you that she was a realtor?
Surprised.
That he had lied to you?
Yes.
May I have House Exhibit 623, please? Would offer State's Exhibit 623 into evidence. Mr. President, it's a public record.
Your Honor.
Do we need to redact any of this?
I would think so, Your Honor. This is like a speeding ticket or something.
The information that's going to be put up is going to be redacted. It has been redacted.
Not my copy.
Yeah, nor on mine.
I don't think we should be using this private personal information about anybody talked about in this trial.
The hard copy will be redacted. What's going to be shown has been redacted.
I don't know what they're going to show.
Can you show us the redacted copy? Because ours is not redacted, nor counsel. We'll break in 15 minutes. We're going to continue to the top of the hour.
Thank you, Jim.
I'm sorry, we're not. I said we're going to break in 15 minutes at the top of the hour.
Oh.
You may stretch your legs if you like, senators, but we're going till the top of the hour.
If I may, I'm going to move on and we'll come back to this exhibit.
Okay, we'll come back to that exhibit. Continue.
During the spring and summer of 2018, were there some things that were happening within the office concerning Laura Olson that you were having to deal with?
Yes.
Specifically, were there problems with morale?
Yes.
In which areas of the office were you having difficulty?
Travel aids, security detail, Mr. Mateer.
How about the scheduler?
To the witness, can you repeat that? We couldn't hear you clearly.
The travel aids, the security detail, and Mr. Mateer was my answer, Your Honor.
Let's talk about the travel detail. What kind of problems were you having to deal with?
The travel detail was calling about the hours they were working, the places they were being required to go, and they were concerned about the general's behavior.
Okay. How about the bag man? What is a bag man?
It's a travel aid, and the travel aid is the employee at the Office of the Attorney General that's generally assigned to the Attorney General, does things like make sure they're on time, has their speeches, make sure you get to the venue on time, keeps time, sort of time management, holds on to those it's a close aid,
Were there
personal aid.
Were there problems with the bag man as well?
Yes.
What kind of problems?
Complaining about the hours worked that weren't state business, expressing those concerns to me because I approved their leave or required them to take particular kinds of leave for non-state business events.
What kind of complaints were coming about the hours?
Too long hours, no vacation, odd hours.
Were there complaints about security concerns?
Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're talking about 2018.
We are?
Some complaints in the office from 2018 that has nothing to do with any of the articles of impeachment, I would object to be irrelevant.
Overruled.
Complaints concerning security. What were the worries?
Similar concerns.
Which were what?
Hours worked, non-state business, disorganization, and changes to the schedule.
Issues concerning not state business. What kind of things?
I mean, I think the affair was one of the concerns that was not state business. So were some of the different switches in the schedule between campaign events and state business.
Who is J.B. Skis?
He was General Paxton's travel aide at that time.
And for the court reporter, it's S-K-E-E-S. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And what kind of problems did you have with him, if any?
I personally didn't have problems with JB. JB quit unexpectedly and refused to tell me or Mr. Mateer why.
You ever had that happen before?
I have not.
Okay. Were there issues with the Attorney General's wife that you were having to deal with as well?
At some point in time, Mrs. Paxton was calling the office, asking about the schedule or asking where he was, and the staff was uncomfortable sometimes answering those questions, and they were complaining about that.
Why would they be uncomfortable?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Do you know what caused them to be uncomfortable?
Only what I was told.
And what was your understanding?
This question is going to be relating hearsay, which you just set it up as hearsay, so I object hearsay.
Sustained.
With a problem like that, with the problems that you were having concerning morale, what did you do?
"2018,
Yes.
I talked to Mr. Mateer. He and I talked about it. I also had a conversation with General Paxton directly by myself about it.
Okay. Let's stop and talk about that. Do you recall when that was?
I cannot be precise, no.
Do you recall what time of year it was?
It would have been the summer of 2018
All right. Where did you have that conversation?
in my office.
Okay. And what did you talk about?
Objection. To the extent she's going to relate what she said, that would be hearsay.
She's here for cross-examination.
Sustained.
What was the topic of conversation?
Objection asked and answered. She already told us what the topic was.
Overruled.
What was the topic?
The topic was the ethical implications of a secret affair.
Were you able to relay your concerns?
Yes.
Did he confirm that he, in fact, was having an extramarital affair?
Yes.
And did he tell you that that was with Laura Olson?
No.
Not at that time?
No.
All right. What was his attitude when you told him that things were not good within the office because of that?
He was contrite, and he listened to what I had to say very carefully.
Did you get the feeling that he thought it was none of your business?
Maybe. But we had a good conversation,
Okay.
a productive conversation.
Were you able to help him understand why it was affecting the life of the office itself?
I tried to do that.
How did you do that?
We talked about what had happened to previous public officials that I had counseled in similar situations. We talked about previous public officials and what happened to them in similar situations. We talked about the risk involved in secrets of this magnitude that began to bleed over into the work of the Office of the Attorney General.
What kind of risks are there?
I mean, there's ethical risks, there's political risks, there's legal risks.
What kind of legal?
These things can open one up to bribery, misuse of office, misuse of state time, things like that.
How did he receive that information?
Well,
Okay. Did you make a request of him to tell his wife, Angela?
I did.
How did that conversation end?
Contemplatively and then he left my office.
Were voices ever raised during this conversation?
Not in this conversation, no.
All right. Based on what you know of him and your experience working with him, how does Attorney General Paxton react to confrontation?
He's generally very patient, and he listens well, and he takes in information. So I would say he reacts well to confrontation.
Let's come forward to October of 2018. Was there an occasion that you went to the campaign headquarters?
I did.
Right.
I think that was actually September of 2018.
Okay. And who is present at that time?
Jordan Berry, Jeff Mateer, Brantley Starr, Ben Williams, Mark Rylander, I think, perhaps, myself. And I'm not sure, I could be leaving somebody out, but that's the ones that stand out.
Okay. And what was the occasion?
We were invited to meet with General Paxton and Senator Paxton to talk about this matter.
This matter being what?
The affair.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that General Paxton confessed the affair to all of you?
I think that'd be a fair characterization.
Okay. Did he apologize to all of you as a group?
Did.
Okay. Describe that experience very briefly, if you would, please.
An uncomfortable experience. It's an experience I had not had before in my life. Somber.
Okay.
Be a word I'd use.
How did General Paxton's wife take it? How was she responding?
It was sad and embarrassed, I believe. That was my impression.
Was she crying?
It was.
Right. When you saw that, what did you do?
My heart broke for her.
And what did you do?
After the meeting had concluded, I think I hugged her, and I think I told her that I was sorry this had happened to her.
Okay. What happened after that?
We broke up and went home. Went back to work.
In September 2018, after that meeting, did you believe that Laura Olson was out of his life for good?
Again, at that point, I didn't know her name, but I thought that this type of behavior was out of his life for good, yes.
Let's talk about August 1st of 2019, coming forward now in time. Was there a change in your duties?
Yes.
What happened?
Judge Starr was being promoted to the federal bench, so there was a vacancy in the deputy first assistant position, which was equal to mine, both reporting to Jeff and helping manage the deputies in the way I described in the exhibit. I was told that that was going to change, and when the new deputy first assistant came in, who was Ryan Bangert, that my duties would be changed and I would be reporting only directly to Mr. Mateer.
Okay. Did you receive an explanation as to why those changes were being made?
It was my understanding that those changes were being made at the general's request because I had said no to him too many times, is what I was led to believe.
Let's talk about that. What kind of things would you
Counselor,
say?
excuse me. The jurors have been here for 2 hours. Can we break? Fine?
Certainly.
Members, come back at 3:20. 20-minute break.
Stay right here, sir.
You can step down.